All right, good afternoon and welcome. My name is Joe Riedel of Straub Construction, and I serve as chair of the Shawnee Chamber's Government Affairs Committee, and it is my honor to moderate today's forum. On behalf of Johnson County Public Policy Council, a collaboration of all 10 local chambers of commerce, and particularly on behalf of today's hosts, Soto, Lenexa, and Shawnee Chambers of Commerce, thank you for joining our candidate event featuring Kansas House District 117. First, I'll begin by sharing the format for our forum this afternoon, which will include 3-minute opening statements by the candidates, a moderated question and answer period, during which candidates will have each 1.5 minutes to respond, followed at the end by 2 minutes of closing statements each. Format, questions, and time limits will be the same for every candidate, and there will be no follow-up questions, formal rebuttal time, or audience participation. Candidate speaking order was determined just before this by choosing numbers and will rotate throughout the program. Now, for everyone, will please take a moment to make sure cell phones are silenced. Ready to begin? Okay. First, let's introduce our candidates in alphabetical order. This is a newly created district which contains rural Douglas and Johnson counties, as well as DeSoto and parts of western Lenexa and Shawnee. First, we have Courtney Tripp. Democratic candidate Courtney Tripp was born and raised in the Midwest and resides in DeSoto, Kansas, with her husband Asa Bailey. Courtney is currently the head of marketing for the Fast Forward Group, a company devoted to helping people achieve success and fulfillment in their whole lives, but has past experiences working in public schools, healthcare, and the engineering space. She serves on the board of directors for the Sunflower House and has also volunteered at Wayside Waves. Courtney enjoys training her horse named Brazil, gardening, as well as the outdoors and trails of Johnson County. So, Courtney, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And next we move on to Mr. Adam Turk. Republican candidate Adam Turk grew up in rural Douglas County, graduating from Baldwin High School, and has lived in Johnson County since 2008. He has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration and an associate's degree in law enforcement and security. Adam is a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, and serves as a master sergeant in the Kansas Air National Guard 190th Air Refueling Wing. He is the owner of 2 9-round fitness clubs in Johnson County and Dominion Consulting, a business leadership consulting firm for small business startups. He is married to his wife Megan, and they have 3 kids in the DeSoto School District and are parishioners of Sacred Heart Catholic Church. Mr. Turk, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So, and like I referenced here a little bit ago, going in the order by how you guys drew it, 3 minutes just to give some opening statements, starting with Mr. Turk.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm a business owner here in Shawnee. Been serving the Kansas Air National Guard for almost 2 decades. Really, what got me here today, I would say, is just the frustrations of the last several years in business and the economy and things of that nature. I've got 3 children in schools, and it was a difficult time during the pandemic, and it really kind of kicked me in the rear to get involved in my community and get hands-on with policy making. And I really am motivated to provide to my children the opportunities that was provided to me by my parents and those that came before me. Thank you for hosting this for us and giving us the opportunity to speak to you. I look forward to our event here.
All right, thank you. Ms. Tripp.
Yes, thank you to the Shawnee Chamber, the Lenexa Chamber, and the DeSoto Chamber for hosting this wonderful event today to inform your members and voters a bit more about us and our policy positions. My name is Courtney Tripp, and I am so proud to be running to be your state representative in the new Kansas House District 117. My husband Asa and I fell in love with District 117 when we were looking at a place to call our forever home. It's the perfect balance. We can access everything in Lawrence and Kansas City and the wonderful resources that Johnson County has to offer, and I can have a horse just a few minutes away from home. A Kansan by choice and a lifelong volunteer, I have been involved in giving back to my community over the years. I was construction manager for a Habitat for Humanity build that partnered our Air Force Base, our university, and our schools to build a home. I served with Wayside Waves and now sit on the board of the Sunflower House, our children's abuse prevention and advocacy center. This year, I found myself uniquely qualified to serve in this new role. You see, I have direct professional experience in education, infrastructure, and healthcare, and those are the three key issues that are a focus of my campaign. I'm eager to put my experience to work for the people of our district, to see us through a period of significant growth and change, and help ensure all Kansans can thrive today and for generations to come. From the start of my campaign, I prioritized meeting with people, mayors, city council members, superintendents, and thousands of voters, because I believe that strong leadership starts with listening. And I promise I will work tirelessly to serve you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tripp. And on to the question and answer portion of today's forum. Just a reminder, each candidate, you will have 1.5 minutes to respond, and speaking order is going to rotate. And with that in mind, Ms. Tripp, this first question is to you. What are your views on state tax policy, being as specific as you can?
Absolutely. So it's important that state taxes are structured in a way that's unburdensome to individuals and to businesses, while supporting necessary investments in things like infrastructure and education. We are at a unique juncture right now as state revenues have exceeded projections for 26 months straight. It presents us with an opportunity. It's time to release some of that money back to our taxpayers. I support axing the state sales tax on food immediately. I also support eliminating the tax on hygiene products and over-the-counter pharmaceuticals. So those things are within reach for all of our residents. On September 26th, I was so proud to join legislators in Topeka to roll out a 3-pronged property tax relief proposal. It would directly and immediately lower property taxes for people in our district. This includes restoring the local ad valorem tax reduction fund that hasn't been funded for 20 years and exists for the sole purpose of lowering property taxes. It is time we provide relief to Kansas taxpayers and homeowners, and legislators meet their obligations to fund this fund and reduce taxes that are in danger of taxing people out of their homes in our district.
Thank you. Mr. Turk, same question. Do you want to repeat it, or?
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. What are your views on state tax policy, being as specific as you can?
Well, as a small business owner, taxes are an everyday line item that you check every time you go through your profit and loss for the week. All right, so taxes are obviously a huge issue for my campaign, and as a homeowner and a father, I understand that the tax burden is just simply too high. Being in Johnson County, we are the most taxed county in the state, hands down, and at every door I knock, it is the issue that comes up. Whether it's for senior citizens on fixed incomes or average everyday Joes with family to worry about. The elimination of the food sales tax is a great step, but we have to do more, and I will diligently pursue any tax reduction that benefits everybody across the board and not just a chosen few. And by a chosen few, I mean any kind of corporate welfare or incentive programs must have predictable, low, and inviting tax policy.
All right, thank you. Question 2, and we'll stay with you here, Adam. What are your views on K-12 education funding and accessibility?
With kids in the DeSoto School District, I believe we have to fund our schools, but that funding must be directed in a way that benefits every student. Every student and every teacher at the lowest level. We also need to expand individual innovation and real-world opportunities for all kids to learn and be prepared for the realities of life. Now, what I mean by that is additional opportunities in hands-on job-related fields. So for high school aged kids, emphasizing SHOP, for example, something I loved growing up and I've watched phased out over the years. There are some great examples across the state of schools that are emphasizing to great success SHOP class again. I say, let's keep doing it right here in District 117. Expand it as much as we can.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Tripp, same question to you. What are your views on K-12 education funding and accessibility?
Absolutely. Public education is the very foundation of our communities, and many people choose to live in our district for our outstanding award-winning schools. Fully funding education opens doors for students and leads to a brighter future for us all. This includes fully funding special education to the 92% level, something the legislature has yet to do. But there is a lot more to supporting schools than just finance. Building a collaborative, supportive relationship between legislators and our school districts is essential, which is why I prioritize meeting with superintendents, educators, and school board members. Teachers need to not just feel supported, but trusted to do the jobs that they have been hired to do. Schools should also be supported in continuously assessing and integrating new technologies and business partnerships, so students leave K through 12 prepared either for post-secondary education or to be successful in our workforce. Panasonic and the associated economic growth will offer tremendous opportunities for private and public partnerships with our schools so that our USD 232 and Eudora School District students and students from the surrounding area enter the workforce even more prepared in the future.
All right, thank you. Question 3. And sticking with you, Ms. Tripp. What types of economic development policies do you support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
Absolutely. Part of encouraging economic growth and business expansion is making sure that we have the infrastructure to support this. My time working with engineers developed my deep passion for infrastructure as one of those things that can be overlooked but is essential to our everyday lives. The roads that keep us safe while we're traveling to and from work and school and activities, and the broadband access to support business growth and users. All of these community resources. Additionally, I support tax incentives for Main Street businesses and entrepreneurs to power local growth. Finally, I support tax credits for employers who support their employees' education by helping pay for their student loans. This is an excellent way to help give employers an additional tool for recruitment and retention of smart young people and their businesses, and at the same time, encourage and make post-secondary education more affordable. Finally, part of making Kansas a great place to do business is finally expanding Medicaid. A healthy workforce is a productive workforce, and preventative care is so important to that. Expanding Medicaid will bring jobs to Kansas and allow small businesses to better afford health care for their workforce.
All right, thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Turk. What types of economic development policies do you support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
Kansas, simply put, we must be more competitive economically. As a business owner, I tell you, one of my biggest burdens and my highest expenses every single month is my tax burden. Small businesses being the heart and soul of not only Kansas, but the majority of Americans across the country for their income, it cannot be overlooked. A predictable, low tax burden is the only way to grow business. That's it. That's the only way. During the pandemic, while I was shut down, had I only had my tax burden lifted for that duration, my bounce back period wouldn't be lasting until today. I'm still trying to recover from that event. And simply put, had the tax burden been much more predictable, lower, and easier to handle, it wouldn't have been quite the ordeal for me. And I'm speaking for several other people in our small community that were in the same boat. Low taxes and a low regulatory or a small regulatory policy only encourages job growth and businesses to locate and remain in Kansas. Corporate welfare is an unfair tax burden to small business. Picking winners and losers at the community level, it's unfair. It can't be. It's a practice that should not continue. All right, thank you.
All right, on to the next question, sticking with you, Mr. Turk. What would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
Great question. It kind of piggybacks on the last question. We need to have policies in place that encourage people to locate in Kansas and stay in Kansas. Predictably low tax burdens help that as well. So there's always we want that so that there's ample workforce. I mean, we've got a very acute issue coming to District 117 in the near future where we're going to need 4,000 new employees. As an employer in this community that pays a similar pay rate, that's going to have a very unique problem for our community where these 4,000 people are going to come from. We need to be a state that embraces freedom and incentivize people that want to live here with an open tax policy that keeps the daily budget of our families manageable, if that makes sense. It's such a wide question that's hard to do in 30 seconds, but I could talk about it for 3 minutes every single day and not get enough of it. So again, to summarize, it's got to be predictable. It's got to be easy. We can't complicate it with this incentive and that incentive. It just has to be basic. Keep it simple. Thank you.
Okay, same question to you. Ms. Tripp, what would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
Growing and developing our state's workforce starts in our public schools, which need to be fully funded, including special education. Additionally, I support making community colleges, universities, and technical schools more affordable for Kansans. To this end, in addition to the tax credits that I spoke to that would be offered to employers who are helping to pay for their employees' student loans, I was part of a proposal earlier this year that was rolled out, which would include a $150 tax credit for any post-secondary costs, which is so important to include community colleges, technical schools, and universities in this proposal. Additionally, it would extend the time that parents can invest in their students' 529 education plans, syncing that up to April along with any other investment that you're making. Incentivizing companies to offer internships and apprenticeships, as well as partnership programs with our high schools and universities, would further help prepare a successful workforce. All of this, paired with the growth coming to our area, will have the benefit of helping to keep more smart young people here in Kansas to be successful workers, to raise their families, and ultimately to stay and retire here.
Thank you. And on to the next question, which you kind of touched on a little bit there, but opportunity to expand, and sticking with you, Ms. Tripp. What are your views on the state's role with respect to ensuring access and affordability of post-secondary education?
Absolutely. As a former educator in a public university, I believe that the state does have an important role to play in regards to post-secondary education. Without strong state support, our universities become less and less affordable for students, which means fewer students able to pursue careers in high-demand fields like teaching, nursing, and computer sciences. Over the past few years, our universities have faced declining enrollment, and it's essential that the state help mitigate this trend by addressing affordability. We can do so with incentives and smart scholarship programs that offer students assistance with their tuition cost with the agreement that they'll stay in our state and work for X number of years after graduation. This would help address areas where we may have a workforce or a teacher shortage, while at the same time helping to grow a future workforce and keep universities affordable. Additionally, public universities are a crucial source of research and innovation. So this is an investment not just in the future of all of our students, but also in the future of our state.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Turk, same question to you. What are your views on the state's role with respect to ensuring access and affordability of post-secondary education?
Well, as you know, Kansas has a number of high-quality post-secondary schools, many of which have a reputation of being very affordable and accessible. I say it should continue, carry on. We're doing quite well. They've served me quite well in my time. Universities, however, must be accountable for ensuring that their administrative costs are kept to a minimum, and thereby keeping our tax burden as an individual low, and keeping their tuition in check. They have just as much of a burden as to keep their costs low as we the taxpayer do of funding them.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next question, and sticking with you, Mr. Turk. What do you believe the takeaways for state lawmakers should be from the COVID-19 pandemic experience?
This hits close to home, I'm not gonna lie. Mandates and lockdowns were devastating to small businesses. They were devastating. I can't in this time frame tell you all of the effects that hit me and my colleagues around me. But government has no role in dictating who is and isn't essential. Period. I can't say that enough. COVID policies have set back Main Street businesses for years, if they survive at all. I mean, I watched colleagues close their businesses left and right, and still closing their businesses left and right. The largest fitness institution here in Kansas City Metro shut down in the first 6 months, and they were making millions. So, as a small business like mine, who doesn't make anything near that, it was scary. It was terrifying, and with children and a household income to worry about, that it couldn't have hit me more acutely. I think it was very difficult being a Main Street business, watching big businesses like Walmart and Amazon, watching their stock prices skyrocket as we were told to sit down and be quiet. So, in the future, government should not have a role in that at all. Individual freedom is how we navigate that. I don't think anybody isn't smart enough to take care of themselves, without getting into details of the medical, that's it on that.
Thank you. And Ms. Tripp, back to you. What do you believe the takeaways for state lawmakers should be from the COVID-19 pandemic experience?
Yeah, the COVID-19 pandemic was a challenging and eye-opening experience for us all. It underscored the importance of strong community healthcare systems and providing support and resources for our most vulnerable population. It highlighted weaknesses in our supply chain and the importance of local onshore manufacturing of critical supplies. It highlighted the importance of broadband access and reliable infrastructure when schools and work immediately shifted online and some populations were left behind. It also demonstrated the adaptability of some businesses as they made the transition to remote work overnight. And there are lessons we can all learn from each of these things. Finally, it underscored the importance of emergency preparedness, communications, and having the resources here that we need. And I think the legislature should be informed by all this and act before our next crisis arrives.
Thank you. Next question, and sticking with you, Ms. Tripp. What are your views on healthcare policy and Medicaid expansion?
Absolutely. Sadly, uninsured Kansans typically don't receive preventative care and typically have worse healthcare outcomes overall. In addition to benefiting the 165,000 plus Kansans, expanding Medicaid helps create jobs, lowers the number of people whose medical costs are then passed on to the taxpayer because of unpaid bills. Improving preventative care and health care for Kansans also has economic and community benefits. My experience working at a healthcare system informed my advocacy for Medicaid expansion. I not only worked in a hospital here in the Metro, but in a rural critical access hospital, the very hospitals that have often been forced to shut down because of lack of expansion. Additionally, one of the most heartfelt emails I have received from a constituent thus far was a woman talking about the challenge of falling in the gap. You see, she's a single mom raising a family here in our district, and she just earned a job that moved her into the gap. She was forced with the unfair choice of trying to decide whether to take that job and live without insurance for her and her child, or decline that increased paycheck in order to keep health care. No one should be forced with that decision.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Turk, same question to you. What are your views on healthcare policy and, oh, no. Yeah, same question to you. Sorry.
I do not support Medicaid expansion. I am a free market conservative, and I favor policies that are not based on growing government in any way whatsoever. Rather, I'm all about expanding freedom. As a service member, I am very familiar with the VA and its restricted, ration government health care. Very familiar. With freedom comes access, particularly when it comes to health care. I support ideas like health savings accounts, group health plans, as well as other innovative ideas that give people options. A lot of these answers come from the federal government. I understand, but there are some simple things that we can do as a nation, as a state, that lowers across the bar the cost of health care. If I remember correctly, there was supposed to be a new law of the land several years ago that was supposed to fix all these things. Clearly that didn't do that. So how about we take a lesson from that, see that government intervention isn't the answer, and start looking for more innovative ideas to help individuals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next question and final question, sticking with you, Mr. Turk. This one's a little bit of a long one, so I'll try to, if you need me to repeat it back to you, let me know. How control over decision-making is divided among the state legislature and local governments, including local school boards, on issues such as taxation, economic development, and education has been a matter of debate. What are your views on this issue?
I generally support local control. Our area schools enjoy wide latitude in that respect. I would never change that. The best decision is always a decision made at the lowest level. Ironically enough, it's a lesson learned in the military. What separates our great military from everybody else's in the entire world is that the lowest Joe in the line can make a decision right there and doesn't need to necessarily always ask the boss. So any policy or incentive that gives the lowest level an ability to make a quick decision, that's better for me.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tripp, I'm going to repeat the question since it was long. How control over decision-making is divided among the state legislature and local governments, including local school boards, on issues such as taxation, economic development, and education has been a matter of debate. What are your views on this issue?
Yeah. Our school board, city officials, and county elected officials have a very important local role to play. And as elected officials in the legislature, we should collaborate and listen to and defer to their local expertise. And we should support the initiatives that they need in their local community because of that expertise. The legislature should not overburden local officials and school boards with unfunded mandates or government overreach, like the bill known as the Parents' Bill of Rights, which would have gone into law had it not been for our governor's veto and that veto not being overridden. This would have placed unnecessary and undue burden on teachers during a teacher shortage and to students' lessons plans and curriculum. And if a parent sees fit, can request an alternative assignment for their student. The legislature should defer to local expertise, not ignore it, not sideline it, and definitely not overreach.
Okay, thank you. And that ends our question and answer period. So moving into starting to close out, you'll each be given 2 minutes to present closing statements, giving in reverse order of the opening statements. Just please be sure to highlight what distinguishes you most from your opponent, what you think. So starting here with you, Mrs. Tripp.
Thank you. Thank you again to the Chambers for hosting this wonderful forum. It's really appreciated to have this opportunity to speak directly to voters. I would say there is a lot that distinguishes my opponent and I. I'm proud to be a former educator and to be endorsed both by the KNEA and Game On for Kansas schools. This underscores my strong support for public education, including fully funding special education, and additionally, not having the legislature overreach into schools, dictate curriculum, and sideline school boards. I support the expansion of Medicaid, which I spoke on extensively. It would benefit both Kansans and businesses, and most recently in a survey was found to be supported by more than 73% of Kansans. Finally, I stand behind the voice and the vote of nearly 64% of people in our district who said no to government overreach into healthcare decisions. And I stand for protecting reproductive rights and privacies. Still, one of the things I'm most proud of about our campaign is how it has been able to unify people in our district. I not only have supporters, I have donors and volunteers from every party affiliation. And time again, I've heard at the door, wow, that's refreshing. I'm running to be a fresh voice in Topeka and to take my deep professional experience in education, infrastructure, and healthcare and put it to work for the people so all Kansans can thrive today and for generations to come. With the state's excess funds, we can do all of this and provide tax relief for Kansans. And I look forward to taking these actions when elected, and I would appreciate having your support on or before November 8th.
All right, thank you. Mr. Turk, your final comments.
Yeah, thank you. I actually think there's probably a lot of things that you say what distinguishes us here, what distinguishes us between our opponents. Okay, I bet we have a lot in common, frankly. I bet we have a lot in common. But those few things that do differentiate us, it's gonna be important. I come from a Main Street perspective. I own a small business. As a service member, I bring a wealth of team building and leadership skills that are really only learned through the trials and tribulations of military service. And that word right there, service, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing, we're serving. I think understanding that word it goes a long way in legislative policy making. As a father of 3 kids at 10 public schools, I see firsthand how life in public schools is changing and the importance of parental involvement and a classroom focus. I bring all those things to the table, intimate real world experience with it, right here and right now, and all the things that we've experienced in the last 4 years. And like I said, as I was running a small business, this really grounds me in the realities of tax code and the employment market and how they impact the engine of our economy, which is small business. Having that real world experience, it goes a long way in policy making. It's one of the reasons why I even decided to throw my hat in the ring. Too many times I've had a politician representing me that has no understanding of what life is really like in the trenches right now for small families and businesses. So I'd say that's what I bring to the table. Just a big dose of real life.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that concludes our forum for House District 117. Let's thank both of our candidates for participating in today's forum. And on behalf of the DeSoto, Lenexa, and Shawnee, and all the JCPPC Chambers of Commerce, thank you for taking advantage of this important opportunity to learn about the candidates. For more information about these candidates, videos of candidate forums, and advanced voting details, visit www.votejoco.com, and please share this voter resource with your colleagues, families, and friends. Thank you, everyone.